Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to a very, I would say, exhausted episode of the Casual Cast. I haven't slept all night. It's 9 a.m. It's 4 degrees Celsius. And safe to say, I want to be sleeping. But here I am anyway with, I think, episode 6 of this Casual Cast. Fantastic. And I have a very special guest with me, straight from the States, Mr. Bad Brad Murphy. How you doing, man?
Bienvenidos. No, hey, what's up, everybody? I'm doing spectacular. It's the end of the day for me. I'm not tired. I did sleep because I'm a normal functioning human being who doesn't have a ape for a roommate.
Yeah, I know. I'm starting to turn like semi-nocturnal, I think.
That's what the ape.
Yes, that's what apes are known for, being nocturnal.
Amazing, the more you know.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, so it turns out Brad is actually an animal expert. He's next in line to take David Attenborough's place.
Aminal.
Need someone.
I know all about him.
Yeah.
In the mist. Do the dogs and the kids. And the nocturnal gorilla people.
Nocturnal gorilla. I thought that was what the new Apes movie was about.
Oh man,
no.
What a solid start we've got going on here. Already derailed, I love it. But we also have, like always, Mr. Ben Storio on here with a time limit. He's only going to be here for the next, 15 minutes, if that.
We're pushing it. Yeah, look, no, you can't get rid of me. But I think we just glaze over the fact that we're saying that 9 a.m. is an early time. For every other functioning human being, that's normal.
Yeah, that's everyone,
They're already on their, third cup of coffee at that point.
Yeah, that's it. They've been up for 6 hours from the 5 a.m. job because they've been kept up all night. Up at 5 a.m. Yep. But we better use this time efficiently because we're on a ticking time clock.
We had better use that time efficiently. Usually we'd kick off with talking about what games we've been playing, movies we've been watching, stuff like that, but we don't really have time for that, and to be honest, Ben and I's answer is going to be the same as always with Overwatch.
Oh,
so
like everything else, but let's keep going anyway. No point.
Instead of talking about Overwatch for the 17th time in a row, we'll kick off with Brad's topic, which is actually a fantastic topic. Not like anything we've spoken about on the show before, I'm pretty sure. So, you want to kick us off with what that is, dude?
Yeah, sure. So, I was just listening to an album the other day, and I kind of stopped and reflected on a certain song that I realized had, over the past few years, really shaped the way I interact with a lot of the people in my life that I really care about. And the question that sort of just came to my head is, I wonder what are pieces of art or entertainment that have shaped, if they've changed people's lives and have shaped the way they, sort of carry on their day-to-day. So that's sort of what I wanted to ask you folks is, what's been really impactful to you?
Well, I want to know what... Oh, actually, yeah. Do you have an answer, Ben, or...?
Kind of, yeah, and kind of no. I mean, I do have something kind of in mind, but it's not shaped my life more so that it kind of influences the way I view things, slightly. Not like a huge, God, I've turned my ways around. I've seen the light and Jesus has come down and touched me with his grace. Yeah, I kind of do. What about you guys? Do you have answers, or...?
I do. I kind of want to know what Brad's is first, though. If he's come up with a topic, I feel like you've probably got a good one.
Yeah. So there's this, I guess you could say, emo rock album. I'm not really a master of musical genres, but that's, I guess, what I would call it. By this band called Moose Blood. They're from the UK, and it's this album called "I'll Keep You in Mind from Time to Time," and it's a lot of the typical emo shtick, but there are a few songs on there where he's just sort of talking about his dad and how he wished that he had spent more time with his dad before he kicked the bucket, as it were. And it's not in a reflective sort of looking back and Cats in the Cradle with a Silver Spoon, a macro view of it. It's really more of a very sort of harrowing, in the middle of having a mental breakdown over it sort of perspective on it. And it was sort of an experience for me listening to it and thinking I don't ever want to have that. I don't ever want to have that moment where I look back and like feel like I left something unsaid with my family members, or feel like I blew them off and just to do something else at the time. So for me, like I always like try to like I've done a much better job of staying in touch with my family ever since then, and I never ever leave them or end a conversation angry with them, because you never know what's gonna happen, right? Like the whatever, one time I leave home could be the last time I ever see my parents or my brother or something like that. So yeah.
Well, yeah, no, that's brilliant. That's an amazing
That's
answer.
actually amazing, yeah.
God
So
damn.
how long ago did you first listen to that album? Was that like a recent thing that you just discovered it, or is this something that's stuck with you for a while?
I would say it. I listened to it like 2 or 3 years ago. So I feel like it's one of those things that at this point I don't feel like it's like a tiny phase for me. I feel like it's actually like really kind of has some staying power. Yeah.
Ingrained on your life in a way. Just touched
It's
you.
not a phase, Mom.
This is me. I really love you.
Yeah, I swear to God. But no, really. I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like it came to me at a good time because it was right around the time that I was like moving away from home. So it's not one of those. It's not like I come home and I see my mom and my dad every day anymore, right? So I feel like that is a good time to finally be like, hey, I'm gonna like end our sort of not like end my relationship with them, but end my relationship with them where I'm living with them and seeing them all the time on a positive note.
Yeah. Changing the relationship structure per se.
Yes, and it wasn't like I had a
Like-
terrible relationship with my parents but beforehand, but I just feel like you tend to sort of take your family for granted, do you not?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will move out, and I know friends that kind of break off contact more or less, and they're just like, oh yeah, they're doing this, doing that. Don't really know what's happening with like their sisters or their parents at the time, and they just they kind of don't care, which is sad in a way. But I guess some people need to move on or do move on in that way. Can't be obliged to stick around. Like I'm not like that. I thoroughly enjoy. I go home every couple of weeks and catch up with the family, but it is too easy to just lose contact. Even with friends. Friends is the main one I've seen. A lot of people just lose contact as soon as you leave school or move away.
That's right. Friends can drop off very quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
that's an
Well,
amazing answer. I don't want to answer
That's a
for that.
really
Holy
good
shit.
answer. Like, dang, that's blowing mine out of the water.
I've came in. I'm batting 1,000 right now. I think I'm gonna check out. Take care, guys. No, I'm just joking.
Thank you. You've
You've
improved
earned
this
your
podcast
lead.
exponentially. You've earned.
Anyways,
Taking it to deep levels it's never been before. I love it.
God
what do
damn.
you guys think then?
Yeah, that's
Um,
right. What's yours, Ben?
I've kind of got two. I guess my main one is like the classic, 18-year-old, my life is over after the end of a relationship thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been a fan of Boy and Bear. And they released an album actually coincidentally coinciding with the end of the relationship. And, you're just all bummed out. You're like, oh man, life's pretty shit, hey. And I was listening to this album.
Love isn't
and
real.
Love isn't real. And it's basically just like, look, stop being a little bitch and move on with your life.
Really?
It's
Your
like-
fourth heroin shot
Yeah,
into
it's
the
like-
day, and then this album kicks in, and
It's
the
like
sun
one of
comes
the
out from the
things,
sky.
like one of the main lines I remember, and that kind of has stuck with me. It's like, built myself an aviary to keep in all the memories because I'm so afraid they might just fly away. And like that kind of resonated with me because a lot of people will hang on to a memory or something instead of moving on with their lives because they're so scared if they lose that they'll never have something similar again or they'll never
Yeah.
experience something the same. And so for me that was one of the main things that I took away from it was, look, it's fair enough to remember and enjoy them, but you also need to have the capacity to move on and keep living your life and just genuinely have a crack at it, I guess.
Yeah.
So they're
I
not
think-
really saying like don't be a little bitch, but they're saying you need to kind of move on.
Yeah, well, I think part of the issue there, right, is especially when you're young, you get in a relationship, and if it lasts for longer than a minuscule amount of time, like a lot of relationships for young people, you sort of get into this zone where you're still sort of figuring yourself out and what your sort of identity is, and you then make that relationship part of your personal identity. And once that's
Yeah.
gone,
Oh
you
yeah.
feel like part of you is gone. You know?
Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah.
And like it happens to everyone at some stage. Like something similar will happen. But no, I just thought that was a really good album that I just coincided with everything. So I guess that somewhat shaped my life a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. It's a really good line as well. And a damn fine band, too.
No, amazing. Love them.
It's a band I'd love to see live, actually.
Yeah, I've seen them live and thoroughly enjoyed it.
There
They
you
don't
go.
disappoint.
Good fun. And then my other one is like quietly kind of like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. That's
Oh,
because
okay.
like
Huge Chili Peppers
I
fan. What
yeah
specifically?
thoroughly enjoy them. Um, Specifically with them, like it's not really a specific song. It's just like all of their music is so funky, and it kind of inspired me just to kind of enjoy life and go about it with just a different perspective and just thinking like, yeah, I wouldn't mind doing this just for the memory or the experience. And I think that's kind of what their music is about. It's just like they don't take themselves 100% seriously, like
No.
most of the time. And I don't know, I think it's more so stems from the fact that I'm a huge fan.
Hmm.
Even though I remember vividly as a child, they were on TV and they had a music video, I was like, by God, these guys are the worst music I've ever heard.
What?
When I was just like young, and I vividly remember it. I was like, because it was the old Californication video, and I think it might have been just
Oh,
the like the style.
yeah.
And I was like, wow, wow, this
What
looks
is
bad.
that? Well,
But I
because I
was
just
really young.
remember that was some of the first music I remember being on the radio when I was a little kid, like driving around in the car or whatever, and hearing stuff like Californication and Other Side, and being that was sort
Yeah,
of where I like fell in love with that band from like day one, and like they've kind of been my favorite band ever since.
yeah, that's amazing. They're the same with me.
Yeah,
Uh, got all their albums, got everything, posters and whatnot. Need to see them, otherwise I'm going to regret it if I don't see them live. But
yeah,
you
for
never know
sure.
at this age. They're kind of probably tiring out somewhat.
I think it's also one of those weird things where like, there was a last summer I think or last spring, Anthony Kiedis was hospitalized for something, and my brother and I called my brother and I was like, dude, we've never seen this band. Like, if he makes it out of this, we need to go see them if once they come anywhere near us, because like it's been like a seminal band for us, something we've always bonded over, and like if this dude
Mm.
dies, like that chance is gone, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of the same with me. Like, since they've had like a huge impact on my like musical tastes, I guess, and like shaped me in some way. If I don't see what I consider my most favorite band ever, I will be somewhat disappointed, to say the least.
Oh, so you haven't seen them either, Ben?
No, they've never
There
been
you
to
go.
Australia in my time, and I just haven't been anywhere that they've been playing like at the same time.
God damn, a band like that, you'd think they would have been rolling in world tours for ages. Like, you'd think they would have
Yeah,
visited Australia
I kind of
quite a bit.
missed that like bracket, and they didn't come here that often. I think they came here twice, two tours
Jeez.
through here, if I remember correctly.
Compare that to the amount of albums or hits they've had, that's nothing.
And
Yeah,
considering
it's
Flea's
bizarre.
from here, born here,
Yeah. God damn. There you go.
um, probably the main song that got me into them would have had to have been Parallel Universe. I think that was the
Ooh,
one that stuck with me. It's one of my all-time favorites, but now it's kind of just a big mush of all their songs together into one big favorite.
sure.
So I can't really say I have one. But yeah, I guess just their funky, upbeat genre has just kind of made me have a better view on life, just to enjoy it more.
Yeah, definitely. And you can't go past those funky bass lines. And the way he sings, too, like
No,
how rhythmic it is, I guess. I love it. It's very unique. No one else
that's
does
it.
music like they do.
Yeah, you can't go driving on a road trip, have one of their songs on, and not jam out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's people who say they don't like the Chili Peppers. I don't understand it. Each to their own, but I've never
True.
been able to understand it. They're not my favorite band ever, but I definitely love them.
It is
But
one of those
no,
bands though that I just don't, I feel like they're just so inoffensive. Like if somebody were to be like, "I hate
yeah,
U2," it would be like, "What?" Like I get it.
What did
Like you
they
said,
do
I get
to
it if you
you?
don't love them, but it's like they do just such like music with such wide appeal, and they're just such
Yeah.
non-obnoxious personalities. They don't ever talk shit really. Like I don't know.
And the only
Just
criticisms I hear of the Chili Peppers anyway is like, oh, Anthony Kiedis isn't mature, his lyrics are dumb. It's like, well, what other songs? Like, look at the top, whatever, 50 at the moment. and half of it is them just going like da 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 da, or speaking in another language. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's amazing!"
Yeah,
Whoa.
like
That's it.
what's it
Whoa,
called?
whoa, whoa!
Bloody Future in his mumble rap.
Oh god, that's an alarm. And with
That's
that
an
alarm,
alarm.
I'm going to have to bid you guys au revoir.
I bid you au revoir as well, Ben. Thanks for sticking around for
Yeah,
16
no.
minutes.
Sorry, because I got the call and it was just like very last minute. Actually called me as I woke up. But I'm glad I got to share my small piece of change with you, I guess, and I'll be sure to listen to this afterwards.
So I would say my art that has changed my life, I guess. Not so much now. It hasn't really stuck with me in recent years, but it definitely sort of shaped a part of who I was as a kid. And that, it sounds kind of dumb, but it's actually Naruto for a very specific reason. I used to watch that when I was little, like all the time. Like the original, part one, I'm talking like probably 2005, around that kind of time. I was 10 years old. And what I really liked about Naruto, I was the kind of kid who always wanted to not necessarily impress everybody, but be liked by everybody. So I'd change sort of who I was around people, at that age to sort of impress them and cater to what they were looking for in people. But then when I started watching Naruto at that time, he was the kind of kid who no one really liked him. He was that kind of outcast, but he stuck to who he was anyway. And like, he was always true to himself. And that was a quality that I'd never considered in that age. And that's something that I've brought with me sort of, my whole life growing up since then. Staying true to myself no matter, who I'm around, all that kind of stuff. Don't be ashamed of the person who you are. And yeah, that's probably one piece of art that sort of changed my life for that reason. I would say that's a show that definitely dipped in quality as it went.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Really
I never
that stuck with me, but
I watched that up through the point where Rock Lee was fighting Gara, but I don't know how far in that was. I don't know if that was like way before the dip in quality or way after it. Yeah. I was just saying like where I was eventually going with that is I had never really considered that because to me I didn't have that sort of same connection with it, but I totally see where you're going with that now, and I just find it funny because to me like I always just sort of considered that like, hey, that's like shonen anime, people punch people, fight people, and the hero magically gets more powerful just when it's necessary. But you're totally right. He was always sort of like the I don't want to say the asshole kid, but he was a bit abrasive and he
was a bit of a shit of a kid, yeah.
Yeah, he stuck to his guns though, and he did what was ultimately what he considered right, and that is actually something that's a damn good influence on a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially that was something that I needed when I was little. And you're definitely right about it being one of those typical shonen shows, where they get powerful right when it's convenient. But when you're a 10-year-old kid, you don't really consider that. Especially when that was probably the first shonen anime that I probably really ever got into. But yeah, I would say the dip in quality is like probably another 100 episodes from where you were, and then it just gets really bad.
Oh, no.
But considering it's like a 750 episode show all up, if you consider both series, you can't say consistent over that. It goes for way too long. I really can't stand media that does that. Everything should be kind of smaller and more self-contained.
That's why I don't even really like watch television that much anymore. Like, if there is a through line for a plot and you haven't told it in 3 seasons, like, what are you doing? You must have gone off somewhere where you didn't need to.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You've dragged it on too long, put in too many plot lines and arcs and stuff like that. But do you watch Game of Thrones at all? If that's sort of your opinion on TV shows?
I do not.
Yeah.
I don't watch Game of Thrones just because I remember I tried to read those books back in the day, and I got through like 50 pages of exposition, and I was like, you know what? Life is only so long. I don't have time for this. And then I sort of just feel like I'm just like way too late to hop on the bandwagon on this show at this point. And it's probably going to be one of those things where like 10 years down the line I watch it and I'm like, wow, Game of Thrones is awesome. And they're going to be like, oh, everybody's going to be like, welcome to 2011, Brad.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, a lot of my friends are Game of Thrones fans. I'm going to have to miss out on all the watch parties coming up soon.
Yeah, I've got a cracking one lined up for... Oh shit, it's tomorrow when that comes out. Man, that's going to be awesome. I love Game of Thrones, but you've got like 60 hours of television to catch up on if you're going to watch it, so I would probably stay off the bandwagon. That's a one long marathon.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like I watched like the first half of the first season and I was like, I respect the hell out of this show for what it's doing in terms of being like extremely well produced and high quality for a television show. and there's a lot going on in this plot and whatnot, and it's well acted, but like I just can't care.
Yeah, definitely. I get that. And like everything that happened in season 1 is not affecting season 6, 7 coming out at all.
So why was it there?
It's kind of a waste of time.
Yeah, why did that happen?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's why I brought it up, because you were talking about how, TV, if you don't sort of solve a plot in 3 seasons, like one consistent plot, then what's the point? And Game of Thrones has not done that. Every plot line that started in season 1 is still somewhat going with coming into season 7 now. So, yeah, it's definitely something I hate about media these days. Whereas then you look at something, for example, I don't know, Death Note. One short series, self-contained, pretty much one arc. I mean, there's like a lot of sub-arcs and stuff like that. But something like that I consider perfect for a TV series.
Spoilers for Death Note here. Or just, 3-second warning here. Just skip ahead a minute. Even Death Note was one of those ones where it should have ended, like, a half dozen episodes before it did. I mean, think about it. To me, when L dies, that should sort of be it. That's like, okay, we've had this conflict, this cat and mouse game between L and Light the whole time, and now it's over.
Yeah.
But we could not have the bad guy win, so we had to introduce these new characters that you don't know or care about at all. I don't know. I love the hell out of Death Note, but I sort of just kind of choose to forget that like the last 10 or so episodes exist.
I agree. I really like the last episode, but between the last episode and L dying, it's all very useless. Just introducing characters who you don't care about, who become main characters all of a sudden. I have no idea how that came about. If they wanted to stretch it for more episodes, more view time, and more money, or if, the guy who wrote it just had an idea like, what would happen if L died? Like, how would they bring Light down? I have no idea, but I definitely agree. It went on way too long. I hope the Netflix movie doesn't do that. I hope it's just Light and L this whole time.
That would be such a weird turn. I feel like that's pretty much the most common criticism of Death Note is that last, little arc there.
Yeah, definitely. And it would really throw off the pace of a movie too if you just killed off one of the main characters, 2/3 of the way in, and introduce someone. If it's a 90-minute movie, you can't just kill off one of the main characters 60 minutes in, and then introduce another one right at the end. So I'm really looking forward to that movie, though. Willem Dafoe is... Crap, what's his name? Riek? That's a really good idea.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that casting, I was like, oh my god, that's perfect.
No doubt. And his laugh in the trailer is kind of like his laugh from Spider-Man, the Green Goblin laugh, but it's so good. It's real creepy. He nails it.
Yeah.
But that's actually probably not a bad point to segue into the next topic, actually. And that's Spider-Man Combing coming. Oh, God, I'm tired.
Spider-Man Homecoming.
Spider-Man Homecoming has just come out, and I watched it nearly a week ago, I'd say. Fantastic movie. I loved it, but it made me start questioning. I love Spider-Man. I've grown up reading the comics, watching all the TV shows, watching all the movies, stuff like that. I feel like I know, the character Peter Parker and Spider-Man pretty well, I guess you could say, from all sorts of different mediums.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me start questioning which movies are the best and who I might think the best Spider-Man is on screen.
Okay.
You've seen Spider-Man Homecoming, right?
Yes. I just saw it an hour or two ago.
Wow, so fresh in the memory.
Yes.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And what'd you think?
I really liked it. It was exactly what I want out of Marvel movies, in that it was fun from start to finish. There was nothing about it that engaged in any big philosophical question that really made me think deep about what did that mean. But it was just sort of just a really fun, teen slice of life movie and a superhero movie in one.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's what I loved about it, because that's what Spider-Man always has been. Sort of teens. I guess that's kind of an exception. When it first started, it was purely just like dumb superhero stuff, I guess, but everything in the 60s was back then. But as comics sort of started to evolve and character development and stuff like that started to evolve, it did definitely become a teen slice of life / superhero thing. And they nailed that with this one. I feel like they never got that with the Tobey Maguire movies at all. Like the Sam Raimi movies. That just wasn't a thing. And then they sort of started to get there with the Amazing movies, but they weren't too crash hot, in my opinion anyway, except for Andrew Garfield. I loved Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, I think those movies get way too much hate. Actually, I didn't see the second one, to be fair, but I feel like from minute one, everybody just wanted to hate that Amazing Spider-Man series.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are some parts that kind of warrant the hate, but I feel like they're a lot better than people give it credit. Even the second one, I like the second one more than the first one actually, which is not common opinion, but
No.
I really enjoyed it. And he has the best Spider-Man suit out of all of them in the second one too, but that's sort of besides the point. Do you think Homecoming is good enough to sort of dethrone whatever you thought your favorite Spider-Man movie was?
Oh, easily. I mean, for me, it
Yeah.
was one of those. The my warmth towards my favorite Spider-Man movie, which was probably 2, was really like it was a 7 out of 10. You know, for me, like
Yeah.
I liked it, I enjoyed it, but I was not in any way thrilled with it.
I agree.
Whereas this one, like I said, there was no point in that movie where I was ever like, all right, can we move on?
Yeah, I think it was paced perfectly. I mean, I'm pretty happy to go into spoilers with it.
Yeah, let's go. Let's talk.
Yeah, I think we should definitely sort of break it down. But man, like, where should I begin? Actually, I'll begin with the beginning of the movie. It was such a strange sort of Peter Parker thing, you know, opening with his, like, sort of documentation, his own filming of Civil War. I thought that was awesome. I didn't expect it at all, but, you know, starting out with a film by Peter Parker and then just, you know, it really showed that they're going for a different kind of Peter Parker, a really sort of playful, you know, fun kind of guy who likes to joke around. A kid, basically. They were definitely going for more of a kid kind of vibe, and I loved it that they're opening with that kind of stuff. And actually, especially what got me hyped for the movie was that orchestral rendition of the really old Spider-Man theme.
Yeah.
When it started with that, I just had the biggest grin on my face because I love that old Spider-Man cartoon. I used to watch it all the time as a kid because for some reason they televised it when I was probably 12, even though it was decades old already by then. So yeah, I grew up watching that as well, and hearing that, it made me really happy. But Michael Keaton as Vulture was probably my highlight. I really enjoyed it. It was kind of strange to see Batman as a villain, especially a villain like that, but I really enjoyed his performance as well, and his Vulture suit was terrifying.
Yeah.
Like that first shot of it when he picks up Peter and drops him into the lake.
And the sounds it makes
pretty
too.
damn awesome.
That was the thing, is it didn't feel like a lot of the like robots and armor suits and stuff like that they have in the Marvel movies to me sound kind of more clinky than clunky, if that makes sense. Like the Iron Man suit, I understand that it's a really heavy, really powerful, really whatever hard suit, but it's then the noises that when he like collides with something are never really satisfying. Whenever I don't know the name of the villain character even. I just know like Michael
Vulture.
Keaton. Sorry, what was it?
Yeah. Vulture. I can't remember the guy's name though. It always skips my mind. But yeah.
The Vulture suit, I was sitting there and I was like, oh my god, like that's like the sounds of it. It sounds like a big, terrifying, tanky, flying suit. Like it was cool. I was a big fan of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think my... Oh, sorry, you go ahead, man.
No, yeah, I was... You continue on with Vulture, with the baddie.
Oh, yeah, so it was really... I guess you could say down-to-earth performance and villain compared to what you see in most Marvel movies. I mean, they didn't sort of make him incredibly relatable, bar sort of his introduction and stuff like that. That sort of humanized him a bit, but it was definitely a standout for most Marvel villains, I feel. I mean, usually it's just something to punch. That's what most Marvel villains are. They always have been since Loki, I feel. But
he didn't want to control the world, right?
Yeah, that's right. He had very real reasons for doing what he was doing.
Yeah. He brought the scale down to it. I mean, I just saw Guardians recently, and that's one of those ones where it's like the villain is so obviously evil. You know, like it's one of those things where it's like there's no conflict here. Because I actually thought there was a moment that I sort of had in the hangar scene or whatever, right before Peter Parker gets a building dropped on him, where he's kind of going into the whole rant about how like the elites control this, and we're just sort of here to like pick up the scraps of the rich people. You know what I mean? And he's like, I don't want to do that anymore. I thought that was really strange because I think in popular culture right now, I'm not trying to give my take on whether or not I agree or disagree with this, but the general through line seems to be to paint the rich and powerful as evil and as people who are manipulative
Yeah.
and people who are exploitative. And, regardless of to whatever extent that's true or not, it's sort of just become common. And it's strange to see a very mainstream movie sort of take the philosophical stance of populism and apply it to the bad guy. And this is not me saying that the main point of the movie was populism versus elitism and any of that kind of thing. That's not what I'm trying to say. I just thought it was strange that they even really put a connection between the two. I thought it was kind of ballsy. And I don't think most people who go and watch that movie are going to leave there thinking like, oh God, Marvel's a bunch of fascist elitists or anything like that. But it's still one of those things where it's like, it's a strange move for a brand that has pretty much like a universal net that they're casting.
Yeah, that's right. It's sort of a world-dominating brand and franchise sort of going to that kind of place. And if you haven't seen the movie and you are for some reason listening to spoilers, it's not like that's an overarching theme of the entire movie. It's one scene. It's one little speech that definitely brings sort of Michael Keaton's character down to earth a bit, whether you agree with him or not. But you're right. It's something that you're kind of seeing in a lot of places these days, making the rich out to be bad. Like at the moment, I'm playing through Persona 5. That's kind of a theme that's going through on there as well. Sort of like, rich controlling adults are the scum of the earth, Yeah. Yeah, that's why that was fresh in my memory too, because I picked up on that as well. Because, I've been playing through Persona lately. I've been taking way too long with it. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think the reason they did that was because it kind of makes Peter relate to the Vulture as well, I guess. He considers family important, and he's never exactly grown up being rich either, like just him and May. Which they didn't really... I guess they didn't really act much on in Homecoming, but that's always been a background of Spider-Man's character too. Is not exactly from the most well-off background and stuff like that all the time. But yeah, I really enjoyed Michael Keaton in that movie compared to most Marvel villains. And I kind of like that they kept it small scale as well. You're right. He wasn't trying to dominate the world or anything. He's just trying to make a few bucks to keep his family up and going.
A few bucks, dude. Did you see that freaking house?
Oh yeah, true. That was a nice house.
but that was one thing that bothered me about the movie. To sort of skip here. Well, first of all, I loved just to sort of get there. I loved all his interactions with all his high school classmates, and that sort of deal. The one thing that I didn't really like was the way the whole love interest thing panned out, right? Because it's like I was sitting there and I'm like, okay, so he defeats, the bad guy. And then what is he going to do? Is he going to is he going to have a moment where he talks some sense into him and then the bad guy changes his ways? He goes back to living his regular life and he goes back into construction or contracting or whatever he was doing at the beginning of the movie. And then Peter will, whatever, you know what I mean? Like the movie will end and he, not saying he gets the girl, but that relationship at least ends amicably. The way it ends, right, is, well, I put your dad in prison for the rest of his life, and you're gonna move to Oregon. It's like, what? It's like,
yeah, I think the writers just tried to wrap that up as quick as they could. They had no idea what to do with it.
It was one of those things where it's like, she didn't do anything. Her family did. His family didn't do anything wrong. They were just going about their business. In fact, she was really smart and really nice, and then she just got totally dicked over.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That whole arc was really poorly done, though. It was kind of no build up at all. It was just Peter saying, "Yeah, look, I like this girl." He's checking her out. Him and Ned, I'm pretty sure his name was,
Ned.
just talking about her top stuff like that. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, midway through the movie, she's like, "Hey, Liz, I like you." She's like, "Cool, come to the dance." They go to the dance, and then she's like, "I'm moving to Oregon." That's literally it. There was no sort of build up or motivation.
Poorly done. I just thought it was poorly. I just thought it was sort of wrapped up in an unsatisfying way, And if you're gonna accept the conceit that the bad guy is going to go to prison, then I don't know how the heck else you're going to do it. But it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know. I just kind of it doesn't really fit with the rest of the vibe of the movie, which was it's just a big. It's a fun time. It's not supposed to be a dark movie. It's not a Dark Knight. It's not a DC style. We're going to be really serious about this kind of movie.
Yeah, thank God for that though, because the one time they've tried to do that was Spider-Man 3, and that's a train wreck.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we were talking about ranking Spider-Man movies.
Oh, we were.
So
yeah, we were.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you want to say about this movie? Other than I just want to throw this out there. Ned, he was awesome. The whole guy in the chair bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
my whole theater erupted when the teacher walks in the door like, "What are you doing?" There's a dance going on, and I'm watching porn. That's his excuse.
Like, why would that be your excuse off the bat? To be fair, I wouldn't have thought of much else.
I would have just been like,
no, I love
"I'm
Ned.
doing a thing."
Yeah, I'm doing a thing. That just makes it look like you're watching porn. But yeah, no, Ned was definitely a highlight for me. I would say he was probably my favorite character. Like his whole bit with the hat and that it gives him confidence and stuff like that. And then he calls up Peter when he's abandoned at the party. He's like, the hat's not working. Oh, yeah, fantastic. But my bottom line on Spider-Man Homecoming is that I would say it's the most accurate portrayal of Spider-Man. They tried a lot of new things. There were a few characters that didn't need to be in there. Like the movie would have been no different whether they were in there or not, I feel. But it doesn't convolute the whole movie too much. I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree with that. A fun time from start to finish. You said you're familiar with the Spider-Man sort of fiction. I'm not really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The thing at the end where Michelle it says her name is MJ or whatever.
Yeah.
At the end. Is that supposed to be like a Mary Jane reference? Is that like alluding to something, or is that just a random sort of cameo? Like what was that? Was that supposed to be anything?
I feel like they're going to set her up as the love interest in the next few movies and call her MJ to be kind of accurate to the comics, but I think the reason they've called her Michelle is to take her away from the character Mary Jane. Because they have very different personalities. The Michelle in Homecoming is a totally different person to Mary Jane personality-wise. Mary Jane in the comics and TV shows and stuff has always been a bit of a bitch. Really annoying, like very arrogant, a bit too self-confident, I guess you could say, that kind of stuff. Like, for example, Mary Jane's introduction in the comics, the very first time she was in there, the first thing she ever says to Peter, Mary Jane's aunt is introducing Peter to Mary Jane to go to the school dance or whatever. Peter had never met her. And he opens the door, Mary Jane knocks on the door, and the first thing she ever says to Peter is, "Face it, you've just hit the jackpot." And that just comes off as, pretty bitchy, right? So Michelle seems very different, so I think the reason for the name change is just sort of remove her from that. I'd say she's going to be the love interest in the next few movies.
Gotcha.
That's
kind
of
cool,
what I took away from it. But she is pretty cool.
She's not just the typical when they put just if she is Peter Parker's love interest in the next few movies, it's one of those things where sometimes, or I say sometimes, most of the time, if you have an action movie centered around a young male character, oftentimes the love interest's personality is really just like that they're interested in our hero, right? And they you see it's not even like a strong female character or a weak female character, but it's just like a weakly written female character. It's like, what, you don't have anything more interesting to say with this person than just to sort of have her be this like object of desire. And that's one thing that I thought was really cool about Michelle is she's, you had all the weird little quirky moments with her. She's like, I like to just draw people in distress, and turns around and shows like the person who's supervising the detention. Who am I? That killed me. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, she was pretty funny. She was very unique as well. Like, she definitely stood out from all the rest of Peter's classmates. Just as, that kind of weird, quirky chick who you would want to be friends with. You'd want to get to know. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that particular take on, I guess you could say, MJ. It's not really MJ, but yeah, Mary Jane. And you're right. Especially in Spider-Man movies in particular, the love interest has always taken the role of, kind of the villain fodder, just a target for Spider-Man to rescue.
Yeah.
Really hope they don't do that with this character. And I don't feel like they will. I think they're kind of nailing it so far. But, yeah, for example, like Donald Glover's character, he was kind of useless. Although one line was super important. When he talks about him having a nephew. I don't know if you know who Miles Morales is.
I'm only vaguely familiar in that I know that he is another Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And Donald Glover's character is his uncle. So when he talks about him having a nephew, it kind of just confirms Miles' existence. Whether they're going to play with that or not, who knows? But
Gotcha.
I
How do we
reckon
know
they
that
kind of
that's
put him in
Miles
the movie
Morales?
just for that
Did
one
he
line.
say anything about how his name was Morales?
No, well, even in the comics, Donald Glover's character's last name isn't Morales. It's Aaron something. I don't know. But when I think it was Spider-Man looked at his file, it had Miles Morales' uncle's name.
Okay.
Like from the comics as well.
Gotcha.
So when he talks about him having a nephew, it's a pretty safe assumption, I'd say. But I'm pretty sure they put him in the movie just for that line. That's what I feel like, because he did nothing else the entire movie.
It was strange because like to me like obviously like Tom Holland is your like leading character, but to me like right now I would say that like Donald Glover is a bigger deal than Michael Keaton. You can argue
Absolutely.
whoever you want to say is a better actor, who has had a better acting career, whatever. But like, I thought when I heard Donald Glover's in this movie, I figured he was going to be like a main character because like he's awesome and he's a big deal. But I guess I don't know. I don't really know why he was in the like. It's not that I don't think. It's not that I think he did a bad job or that character was like bad or anything. But it was one of those things where it's like, if you're gonna get Donald Glover, like you would think he'd be a big deal, you know.
You'd definitely do more with him. I would have if, I was writing the movie. And maybe they did. They just didn't have time to keep his scenes in the movie. Who knows? But yeah, he was kind of just there for no reason. And he's one of the biggest names in music and acting and everything right now, just in celebrityhood, I guess. But
and
yeah.
also, like, the one black guy they had in the movie, they had to make a, like, guy who's buying a gun and is a criminal.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, guys. Yeah. You gotta do
I mean, that is his character in the comics, but no, you're absolutely right.
It's like,
yeah, and like the other scene where he's not buying a gun, he's super stoned. Well, it looked like he was super stoned. Maybe Donald Glover was just stoned when he filmed it, but yeah,
maybe. Maybe
listening to rap music and whatnot. But yeah, getting back to ranking it though, I feel Spider-Man 2, like you, was my favorite. I feel like that was the most perfect Spider-Man movie all round until this one. It was actually, I still feel like it's one of the best superhero movies, period. Bar a few cheesy scenes, but that just comes from the time. So I'd probably put that as my second. Homecoming, far and away my number one. Then from then on, they kind of just all blend in. Spider-Man 3 easily down the bottom though. That movie is just a train wreck. Bar the one incredible dance scene where he's walking down the sidewalk. That
is so ridiculous, dude. Like, that is great as a meme. But I remember even as a kid watching that and being like, what the hell is going on? Like,
me too. Whose idea was that?
Yeah, that's so ridiculous. Like, I cannot believe that made it in the movie. That honestly looks like one of those things that, like, if I was making, like, a school project where we had to make a short film or something back when I was in, like, high school, we would have put in there as, like, a bit. As just, like, a side joke just to, like, when the class is watching it, have it be, like, something that keeps them awake. You know what I mean? Because I don't need to give a rant on a whatever decade old movie at this point, but like, well, what was that?
No, I agree 100%, and I use GIFs from that scene all the time. It's so dumb. Like, why Tobey Maguire would have even agreed to do it? I guess he kind of has to if he's on the movie, but it just doesn't make sense for the character. It doesn't make sense for the movie. I don't know if they put it in there as a joke or if they were half serious about it. Yeah. It just doesn't work.
But it's not like that movie, the tone of it was like, this is a funny, goofy movie. Like, if they put that in a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, you would be like, oh, okay, this is just, a joke that they're going for. But with that, it was not, that wasn't the tone of the movie at all. Like, if they just had a musical number in the middle of Death Note, you'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, the rest of the movie is like, oh, my best friend's trying to kill me. I can't marry the girl I love. This Sandman guy has a sick, I'm pretty sure, dying daughter, and he's trying to get money to give her surgery. Like, it's a constant downer, And then there's just that one bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Spider-Man 3 had some good ideas. I really liked Sandman. That's down the bottom. then I don't know, the rest of it just kind of blends from there. I rewatched the original the other day, and it has not aged well one bit.
No, but you want to know what is still maybe the best thing in Spider-Man? The Macho Man Randy Savage scene, the wrestling scene from the first one. I know it's corny.
Bonesaw is ready.
Yeah, like, is it ridiculous? Yes. Is it really cheesy? Yes. But it's also still, like, maybe my favorite thing from the movie, from any of those movies.
Got you for 5 minutes. 5 minutes of playtime. Oh, it's so dumb.
Yeah.
It's good, though. I like it. It's not...
It's irreverent and funny. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. It's not like the Spider-Man 3 scene where it's just so dumb to the point where it's a huge detriment to the movie. It's just great.
Like, it's professional wrestling.
100%.
It's supposed to be. Like,
that's right.
It's supposed to be, like, the whole cage match thing is supposed to be, like, hammy. You know what I mean? It's not supposed to be, like, a serious thing. Even though I know he was not just like professional wrestling, but, you know, he's fighting a professional wrestler. So I guess if you didn't know who Macho Man Randy Savage was, maybe that wouldn't be as funny to you, but nah.
No, I definitely do. It is fantastic. But yeah, they definitely really nailed the whole wrestling vibe. But that movie, it doesn't really have a plot. It's just Green Goblin becomes Green Goblin because he inhaled some bad gas, then makes 2 attacks and then dies, and Peter happened to get bitten by a spider. And that's pretty much the whole plot, and there's no character development, anything like that. That's literally the movie. And the dialogue is awful as well. I recommend watching it again and just try and pay attention to how bad the dialogue is and how bad Kirsten Dunst's acting is.
God.
It's somewhat entertaining for the first half hour. But yeah,
I don't know. I think a lot of
don't think
those movies, like Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, lots of those movies from that era, even like the early X-Men movies, get a lot of love. And if you go back and you watch them now, I think it's just that nerds wanted a movie to love, and those were the comic book movies of the time, and it was before we were inundated with them. So I feel like people just felt the need to defend them. Because if you go back and you watch them now, like that, like people say like, oh, what's your favorite X-Men movie? And somebody's like saying like X2 over Logan. It's like, what X2 did you see that makes that a better movie than Logan? Like,
yeah, that's right.
It's before they really knew how to handle like ensemble casts, and there's lots of the movie that's just that you're just sitting there like, can this please be over? I don't even want to say it's unnecessary to the plot, but it's just like, I don't know. I don't have great command of like film vocabulary and a lot of extensive movie knowledge, so it's hard for me to sit here and make like a reasoned argument about it. But I don't know. I feel like it's totally one of those things where if you're sitting there and you're still saying Spider-Man 2 is better than Spider-Man Homecoming, it's like, by what merit is that? I'm sorry, by what metric are you sort of looking at there to determine that that's better?
That's right. And usually it's just the metric of how the movie made them feel at the time, I think. I mean, most of us, these days who you're talking to, especially if you're talking about like the original X-Men, you know, Sam Raimi movies, most people who I talk to about them were kids when those were out, you know? Early 2000s, like myself, like 2002, I would have been 6, I think. That's when the original Spider-Man came out. But like when you're a kid and you watch those movies, they're the most amazing thing ever, because you're not in there for a good plot, you're not in there for good characters, you're in there for an explosion or two and some good action sort of thing. You're very easily impressed, and people just carry that feeling with them while they age. So when they look back on, like X2, I think all the original X-Men are really bad looking back on them. Like that's why they're going to say it's better than Logan, when Logan is far and away the best X-Men movie that's been made.
Like, not even close.
Yeah, not even close at all. But you're exactly right. It's just something that, I guess all these nerds are hanging on to, you know? This nostalgic love for all these old movies. You're absolutely right. And that's why Homecoming shines compared to all of them. I mean, we've had time to make superhero movies now. There are way too many of them. They've nailed the formula, I guess you could say. So any product that's going to be made now about superheroes is going to be above and beyond what happened then.
And I think the other thing is just a general change. Like, if you look, there was lots of melodramatic teen TV shows and movies at the time. And I'm not saying they don't still exist now, but if you go back and you watch a show like Dawson's Creek that was like, like a late 90s, early 2000s. I don't know exactly when it was running. That's around the time I was born, so give me a break there. But if you look at a lot of shows from that time, there were these shows about high schoolers where they were like really, really melodramatic. The characters on them didn't look or talk like high schoolers. They looked and talked like 25 to 30-year-olds.
Yeah.
And they just were people that were in a high school. And so when you look at like Peter Parker in, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, he doesn't feel like a teenager. And likewise, unlike that, the new, Spider-Man Homecoming, like Tom Holland looks like a high schooler and he acts like a high schooler. He stumbles over his words and cannot talk to he cannot talk to girls at all. And whenever he, when he gets his prom date, they show him the close up on his face as he's sort of like walking towards the camera, and he has this moment of like where he's talking to himself, and he feels like a rock star because he just got a date to Homecoming. Like, I don't know, it's a it feels much more authentic. It feels much more believable.
Definitely, instead of Tobey Maguire looking like the probably 30-year-old that he was having to sit in a high school, especially Flash Thompson in the original, the bully. He's clearly not a high school kid. Them saying that Tom Holland was 15, I felt was a bit of a stretch. He doesn't look 15 to me, but definitely a high schooler. They nailed the high school feel, how people talk, especially, I guess, the challenges of adolescence that we all would have faced, like talking to girls and getting a date and stuff like that, and how those made you feel and how you carry on about that, not directly, but like, they showed how, like you said, how Peter getting a date made him feel, stuff like that, instead of just the moment where he gets a date. I don't know, they nailed it. They just nailed the high school feel. Holland was really good at it. I guess because high school's probably a fresh memory for him too. He's only our age. But yeah, absolutely nailed it. I loved that about Homecoming. But it was a different Spider-Man that we've seen on screen. It was more sort of a tech-based, sort of less powers-based kind of guy, with Karen and all that, and all his suit special abilities. My least favorite Spider-Man is the real teched-up Spider-Man, but they still did it well in Homecoming, I feel. But they completely got rid of one of his best powers, which is Spider Sense. That's what kind of makes him really powerful. He doesn't have that in Homecoming, which I noticed, which I wasn't a big fan of, but what can you do?
I don't know. I feel like, and maybe this is something I'd be able to speak more on if I knew more about Spider-Man, but if you just look at the nature of the conflict that was going on there and the way the fights went down, like, how would you even do any of that combat if Spider-Man saw everything coming? I don't understand. Like, again, I don't understand how the Spider Sense works, but like if he was able to see all the punches and blows coming, it's kind of like, what are we doing here? Like, why is he ever getting hit in the first place? I did kind of find it strange where they never really establish how durable he is. So there are times when he gets punched by the giant like power glove or whatever it's called, and flies through a bus and is knocking out all the seats, and he seems kind of like injured and whatnot there. I'm like, okay, so he's like reasonably durable, but he's not like unbreakable, right? And then all of a sudden he gets a building dropped on him, and I'm like, oh, he should die from that. And then he just sort of picks up the building, and it's like I don't really know where the boundaries are in regards to like what can kill him.
Peter Parker shouldn't be able to bench a broken building.
Yeah, like I don't know where the boundaries are. Like, can he get? Does he get shot? Like, would he die then? I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I guess you'd assume he would, but I mean, getting shot would probably injure you just about as much as getting punched through a bus or a building landing on you. Like, either way, anyone's going to die.
Or falling out of the sky and landing in the water. Like, that should kill you, but it didn't. He seemed pretty fine there. I don't know.
I never even considered that. Like, that was a pretty fair drop, man. Yeah, no, you're right.
Like, if you're going that fast, if you're falling that fast, hitting water is essentially just hitting pavement at that point. Like, it's not just sploosh. You're gonna Assassin's Creed swan dive in from like 8 stories up and be fine.
Yeah, land in a haystack conveniently.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. But yeah, I definitely feel like we've pretty much covered Homecoming and kind of where we rank the movies, I guess.
I think
Kind of
I'm
established that
largely
Homecoming is the best.
I'm largely in agreement with you. Maybe we're prisoners of the moment here, and maybe we'll look back in a few years and be like, Homecoming sucked, but I really don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what people said about Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 1 and stuff like that. But, I mean, who knows? You can't tell the future. You never know until we have a different context to look at superhero movies, I guess, and Spider-Man movies in particular. You know, in the next 10 years when they reboot it for a fourth time. And
Dude, 10 years? You're giving them a lot of credit there.
That's true. Amazing Spider-Man lasted, what, like 4?
Yes. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think maybe we're probably, it seems like, as long as you don't count, like, a transition to Miles Morales as a reboot, as long as it's in the same universe, then maybe, you know, we're fine for a while, for 10 years, but if you do count, you know, a switch in the actor, a switch in the character as a reboot, then I think you maybe got 5 years, maybe.
I think you're right, actually. I think you've nailed that there. 10 years is a little bit too much. And think about how old Tom Holland would be 10 years. Yeah, you're definitely right. I love the plans that they had for the Amazing Spider-Man movies, though. It's so dumb. They had an Aunt May movie, like an Aunt May solo movie planned and stuff like that. That franchise was just kind of big, man.
Like, what do you... What do we need out of these? It's so trite. It's so 2014 to say, why do we need all these superhero movies? But it's seriously like, do you think anyone cares? Like, people only care about even some currently existing Marvel movies insofar as they are Marvel movies. Ant-Man? Like, what? Like, nobody... I don't feel like there was not a whole lot of fanfare for that before it came out, and then even after it came out. It wasn't like people loved it. Like, I mean, like, I thought the same... I thought Guardians was going to run into that problem, but it... You know, everybody went to watch Guardians, and we all thought it was awesome, so, you know, it didn't matter if it was characters that we knew or not. It was a fun movie. But...
That's right.
I'm ready... I don't know. I'm a liar. I'm a hypocrite because I say I'm ready for the superhero movies to stop. But I've seen Logan. I've seen Guardians of the Galaxy. I've seen Spider-Man: Homecoming. Like, so I guess I'm not voting with my wallet here. But I'm ready to slow down on the superhero movies.
I agree. I'm very ready to slow down on them too. But when I think of superhero movies, I don't know. I kind of think back to... like when we were talking about X-Men, like the original trilogy and all the old Spider-Man movies, stuff like that. Those were, you know, your corny superhero movies. Whereas now I think they're actually sort of even more in recent years, not just the MCU. Like in the last probably 2 years, it seems like they're going for either genre movies where the characters happen to be superheroes. Like them being superheroes isn't maybe the sort of main point of it.
Yeah.
I think they're kind of trying to steer away from that. But yeah, in saying that, it's definitely a very saturated market. I could do with less. I'd like it to end with Infinity War probably, and then have a few solo movies out every now and then.
That will not
These
happen.
big ensemble movies, yeah, no, it will not happen.
They're going to
huge
have
cash
a
cow.
new class of Avengers because you do have to eventually
definitely.
sunset the sort of current cast. Because I mean, come on. I mean, we've heard like Robert Downey Jr. talking right about, you know, I want to leave before it gets embarrassing. Like. So
yeah, and he's been doing it for 10 years. So, fuck, the MCU is 10 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. It's crazy.
And they still haven't wrapped that up. Talk about series that take too long with their storylines. God damn.
And here's the thing is a lot of the movies are kind of unnecessary. When you really think about it.
Definitely.
Like, right, like, they're going to obviously bring it in for Infinity War, but right now, the Guardians plotline is entirely unnecessary.
That's right. And you think about Infinity War, Thanos was revealed, 5 years ago now? 2012?
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's when the Avengers came out?
Yeah,
like, how has he not been in one of the movies properly yet?
He is the White Walker of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is a threat that you need to worry about.
Yeah.
And we're just going to sort of put that on the sideline for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Man, like it's all these. There's too many movies that are all linked together by little 30-second pieces at the end of the credits. Like, I definitely agree.
That was the other thought I had. Is the sorry to cut you off, but the end credit scene. At this point, if you're a person who leaves the theater when the credits start playing, like, what are you doing? Where have you been? And
rookies.
Yeah, rookies. Who's a rookie to these movies at at this point, like if you did not,
10 years on.
yeah, and the other one is why are we even like before it was like this is fun if you stay for after the movie these people get a treat or whatever. Like why don't they just put it at the end of the movie and then roll credits? Because like
I agree.
It's essentially just like you're making us stay and watch the beginning of your credits where you thank your main stars, right? Because at the end of the day,
right.
It's not like they're making you stick through the whole credits and making sure you're seeing every name, because everybody who worked on visual effects is still smushed together for 8 seconds on the screen in tiny text after all of the actual action, including the like post-credit scene, is over.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, like, why sit through the credits? There is no reason, for them to force us through it. But did you stay right to the very end after the credits? Like
the credits?
The post-credit scene? Yeah,
no,
the credits for the guys who did the credits.
I had to get out of here and come record a podcast.
Oh damn! It would tie you up like that.
Dude, honestly, I will never be able to see that clip again, and you're such a burden to me. No.
Yeah, I know. No, it's actually. Probably one of the funniest things I feel like they've ever done in the MCU.
Oh, man.
It's Captain America. You know those Captain America things throughout the
go
movies? Like, so you've got detention.
Oh, yeah.
you know those? Yeah, it's one of these,
right.
And it's just Captain America standing there. He's like,
hold on.
So
Stop.
one of the best.
I want to just YouTube this in a minute.
Oh, you want to YouTube it?
Yeah,
Oh, go for it.
after the show. After the show.
Absolutely. Yeah, I won't spoil it for you, but it's a bit of a troll. It's fantastic. After sitting through credits for about 15 minutes, it's fantastic.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I feel like that's probably a good point to draw a line in the sand and say we've covered Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy to leave it with the 2 topics for today, actually.
Yeah.
We've gone on an hour already, so...
I'm very good at getting podcasts off topic and taking us on tangents, so I'm glad to see I've continued my legacy here today.
Absolutely. For a bit of context on that, Brad and I used to do podcasts years ago, probably going on like 4 years was the last one.
Ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time between drinks, but it's been fantastic to have you back, man.
Yes, sir. I would love to come back if you'll ever have me. If you don't, I totally understand. But
no, I'm pretty happy I'm just leaving it there and never speaking to you again. No, you'll definitely be back, dude.
All right. Sounds good.
That'd be fantastic.
It's a good time.
All right. Yeah, definitely, because we still have one. We had 3 topics lined up. We still have one really good one to go, but it's already an hour in, so let's have you on to speak about that one some other time for sure.
Sounds good then.
But until then, I've been Sam with Brad for Banter Lab. Au revoir.
Adios.